In the vastness of space, humanity's greatest dream, discovery, is about to become its worst nightmare. A crew of seasoned explorers lands on a lush, Earth-like planet teeming with life. But beneath the vibrant surface lies a sinister secret that has claimed countless lives before them. As they unravel the horrifying truth, their survival will depend on choices no one should ever have to make. What is this mysterious world hiding? Why does it look so perfect and yet feel so wrong? This is a tale of trust, betrayal, and survival where nothing is as it seems. Subscribe now to uncover the chilling secrets of Abandoned Paradise, the Deadly Truth Dash. The descent through the atmosphere was smooth, almost eerily so. The ship's systems hummed with precision as it pierced the thick blanket of clouds, revealing a landscape below that seemed too good to be true. Rolling green hills stretched out under an azure sky dotted with fluffy white clouds. Rivers shimmered like liquid silver in the sunlight, snaking across fertile plains. Towering trees swayed gently in the breeze, their leaves casting playful shadows on the ground. It was paradise, or at least what passed for it in the cold expanse of space. On board the vessel, the mood was one of cautious optimism. The crew had been traveling for months, their mission clear but daunting: find habitable worlds to sustain human life beyond Earth. They were weary from cramped quarters and recycled air, longing for a place where they could breathe freely again. And here it was, right before their eyes, a planet that seemed tailor-made for colonization. Sensors indicated breathable air, abundant water sources, and even signs of vegetation capable of supporting terrestrial ecosystems. As the ship touched down softly on a grassy plateau, anticipation crackled among the team members. Each step outside would bring new discoveries, new challenges, and perhaps answers to questions humanity had asked since first gazing at the stars. Yet none of them noticed the faint vibrations rippling outward from the landing site, invisible ripples spreading through the soil like whispers of warning. Beneath their feet, something stirred, not alive in the conventional sense, but aware nonetheless. Aware and waiting. The initial exploration began with methodical precision. The crew deployed drones to map the immediate area while conducting preliminary scans for any anomalies. Everything appeared normal, or as normal as an alien world could be. Birds, or creatures resembling birds, soared gracefully above the canopy, their calls echoing melodiously through the air. Small animals darted between bushes, their movements quick and curious. Even the insects seemed familiar, buzzing lazily around flowers that looked strikingly similar to those found back home. Yet there was an unsettling quality to it all, subtle enough to evade conscious thought, but persistent enough to gnaw at the edges of perception. The colors were too vivid, the scents too sweet, the sounds too harmonious. It felt staged, like walking onto a movie set designed to mimic reality rather than experiencing the genuine article. Despite these nagging doubts, the crew pressed forward, eager to gather data and confirm the planet's suitability for long-term habitation. Hours turned into days as they expanded their search radius. Soil samples revealed nutrient-rich compositions ideal for agriculture. Water tests showed purity levels rivaling Earth's most pristine lakes. Every piece of evidence pointed to a thriving ecosystem ready to welcome human settlers. But amidst the excitement, cracks began to form in their confidence. Equipment malfunctions occurred sporadically, minor glitches at first, but increasingly frequent as time went on. Navigation tools occasionally displayed incorrect coordinates, leading teams astray only to correct themselves moments later. Communication devices suffered intermittent static bursts, cutting off vital links between groups scattered across the terrain. Still, the allure of success overshadowed these inconveniences. After all, every new frontier came with its quirks. Why should this one be any different? Little did they know, the planet itself was testing them, probing their weaknesses, learning how best to ensnare its latest visitors. By the fourth day, the first casualty occurred. One of the geologists ventured into a dense thicket to collect mineral samples when he vanished without a trace. His colleagues retraced his steps using GPS trackers embedded in his suit, only to find the device lying abandoned near a cluster of peculiarly shaped rocks. There were no signs of struggle, no footprints leading away from the scene, just silence, and the faint smell of ozone lingering in the air. Panic rippled through the group, but logic quickly reasserted control. Perhaps he wandered off course due to faulty equipment. Maybe fatigue or dehydration caused disorientation. Whatever the cause, they reasoned, he couldn't have simply disappeared into thin air. Search parties fanned out, calling his name and scanning the surrounding area with thermal imaging devices. Hours passed with no results. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over the land and amplifying the creeping sense of dread. That night, gathered around the campfire's flickering glow, the remaining crew tried to rationalize what had happened. Some suggested predators lurking unseen in the darkness, though no such creatures had been detected during earlier surveys. Others speculated about unstable terrain swallowing him whole, though geological readings contradicted this theory. What they didn't consider, at least not aloud, was the possibility that the planet itself might be responsible, that it wasn't merely a passive backdrop to their expedition, but an active participant shaping events according to some inscrutable design. Sleep eluded everyone that night. Every rustle of leaves, every distant cry carried by the wind sent shivers down spines already taut with tension. By morning, exhaustion had settled heavily upon them, clouding judgment and dulling reflexes. And still, the mystery remained unsolved, hanging over them like a storm cloud refusing to break. The disappearance weighed heavily on morale, but necessity demanded progress. With dwindling supplies and mounting pressure from command back at headquarters, the crew resumed their work, albeit with heightened vigilance. Teams traveled in pairs, never straying far from the base camp. Weapons, previously unnecessary given the apparent lack of threats, were distributed and kept close at hand. Tension simmered just beneath the surface, manifesting in terse exchanges and wary glances exchanged between teammates who once trusted each other implicitly. Meanwhile, strange occurrences multiplied. Food stores began spoiling inexplicably, despite being sealed in airtight containers. Tools left unattended overnight returned damaged or missing entirely. Even personal belongings weren't safe. Journals went blank, photographs faded, memories erased as if the planet sought to erase not just their presence, but their very identity. These incidents bred paranoia, turning allies into suspects and friends into potential foes. Amidst the chaos, patterns emerged. Certain areas of the planet seemed particularly prone to disturbances. Patches of forest where compasses spun wildly, valleys where time seemed to stretch unnaturally, cliffsides where echoes took on voices of their own. Mapping these zones revealed an intricate network spanning the region, converging toward a central point deep within the heart of the wilderness. Instinct screamed against venturing further, yet curiosity compelled them onward. If answers existed anywhere, they surely lay at the nexus of this enigmatic web. Preparations for the journey were meticulous, bordering on obsessive. Extra provisions were packed, redundancies built into communication systems, escape routes planned and rehearsed ad nauseum. Fear coiled tightly around each decision, whispering caution even as ambition urged them forward. When the moment finally arrived to set out, the weight of uncertainty hung palpable in the air, mingling with the scent of damp earth and crushed leaves beneath their boots. The trek toward the convergence zone tested their resolve in ways none had anticipated. Terrain grew treacherous, shifting unpredictably beneath their feet as if the ground itself conspired against them. Rivers changed course overnight, forcing detours that added precious hours to their travel time. Weather patterns defied logic, cycling rapidly between blistering heat and freezing rain within minutes. Nature's beauty morphed into hostility, every leaf and stone seeming imbued with malevolent intent. Fatigue accumulated like sediment, layer upon layer, until even simple tasks required monumental effort. Tempers flared, patience frayed, and unity fractured under the strain. Doubts surfaced openly now, accusations hurled like stones in the dark. Was this truly worth it? Had hubris driven them to chase glory at the cost of sanity, and possibly lives? Questions begged answers, yet none came willingly. Then came the dreams. Vivid, haunting visions plagued their sleep, vivid enough to blur the line between reality and imagination. Each dream featured the same figure, a shadowy silhouette standing at the edge of a precipice, beckoning silently with an outstretched hand. Behind it loomed a structure unlike anything they'd encountered, a towering monolith etched with glyphs glowing faintly in hues unknown to human perception. In the dreams, the figure spoke not with words but with emotions, conveying urgency, desperation, warning. "Wake up," it seemed to say. "Turn back while you still can." But waking brought no relief, only deeper unease. For those who dared share their experiences, descriptions matched uncannily, suggesting a shared delusion or something far more sinister. Whispers circulated among the group, half-formed theories about collective consciousness or psychic manipulation dismissed as quickly as they arose. Still, the image lingered, burned into minds like afterimages following a bright flash. Whether illusion or message, it propelled them inexorably closer to the source. The closer they drew to the convergence zone, the more pronounced the anomalies became. Gravity fluctuated unpredictably, sometimes pulling them downward with crushing force, other times lifting their feet slightly off the ground as though buoyed by unseen currents. Time itself seemed distorted. Watches ticked erratically, and conversations were interrupted by moments of deafening silence where sound ceased entirely. These disruptions weren't localized. They followed the crew like a shadow, an omnipresent reminder that the planet was not merely indifferent but actively hostile. Amidst this chaos, interpersonal dynamics began to fray further. Trust, once the bedrock of their mission, eroded into suspicion. Every glance over a shoulder felt accusatory. Every muttered word carried double meanings. Some argued that the planet's interference was proof of its sentience, a deliberate attempt to drive them mad. Others clung to scientific explanations, attributing the phenomena to poorly understood natural processes or equipment malfunctions exacerbated by stress. But deep down, even the staunchest skeptics harbored doubts. How could something so meticulously planned go so wrong? By now, the dreams had become communal experiences, shared hallucinations bleeding into waking life. During one particularly harrowing night, the entire team woke simultaneously, drenched in sweat, hearts pounding in unison. They recounted identical visions, the shadowy figure leading them toward the monolith, only this time revealing glimpses inside, a labyrinthine interior illuminated by pulsating veins of light. The structure seemed alive, breathing, watching. It wasn't just architecture. It was a being, ancient and incomprehensible, waiting for intruders to stumble into its grasp. Despite, or perhaps because of, these warnings, the pull toward the monolith grew stronger. Each step forward felt like surrendering to inevitability, as if resisting would only prolong the inevitable. Yet curiosity mingled with dread, compelling them onward. What secrets did the structure hold? Was it a prison, a temple, or something else entirely? And what role did the shadowy figure play in all of this? Questions spiraled endlessly, each answer spawning new riddles until clarity felt impossible. The final leg of the journey tested their endurance beyond anything they'd imagined. Terrain transformed from challenging to outright surreal, with landscapes warping before their eyes like mirages given substance. Trees twisted skyward in impossible configurations, their branches interlocking to form ceilings overhead. Rivers flowed uphill, defying gravity with liquid grace. Even the air shimmered with faint, iridescent hues, distorting vision and making distances difficult to judge. Every step required monumental effort, muscles screaming in protest while minds struggled to process the unreality surrounding them. Communication faltered under these conditions. Voices carried oddly, echoing unnaturally or fading into whispers swallowed by the oppressive stillness. Radios crackled with static, occasionally picking up fragments of garbled transmissions that sounded eerily human yet utterly alien. At times, it seemed as though someone or something was trying to reach out, offering guidance or issuing threats. Either way, the messages remained indecipherable, adding another layer of unease to an already fraught situation. As they neared the monolith, physical symptoms began manifesting. Headaches pounded relentlessly, accompanied by bouts of vertigo and nausea. Skin tingled with phantom sensations, as though brushed by invisible fingers. Eyes blurred, colors bleeding together in kaleidoscopic swirls. Fatigue settled like lead weights on limbs already pushed to their limits. Some suggested turning back, citing health concerns as justification, but dissent was met with steely resolve. Retreat wasn't an option, not when answers lay tantalizingly close. And then, without warning, the monolith appeared. Rising abruptly from the horizon, it dominated the landscape, dwarfing everything around it. Its surface shimmered with shifting patterns, glyphs glowing softly in rhythms reminiscent of heartbeats. A low hum emanated from within, vibrating through bones and resonating in chests. Standing at its base, the crew felt infinitesimally small, insignificant specks caught in the gaze of something vast and unknowable. Approaching the monolith felt like stepping into a dream or a nightmare. The air thickened, heavy with an electric charge that raised hairs on arms and necks. Sounds warped, voices stretched thin until they became unintelligible murmurs. Shadows danced across the ground despite no visible source of light, writhing like living things. Every instinct screamed to flee, yet feet moved inexorably forward, drawn by an irresistible compulsion. Touching the surface confirmed their worst fears. The structure was alive. Warmth radiated beneath fingertips, pulsing gently like a heartbeat. Glyphs shifted and rearranged themselves, forming symbols that seemed almost familiar yet eluded comprehension. Attempts to scan the material yielded contradictory results, sometimes registering as a newt stone, other times as organic tissue. Whatever it was, it defied categorization, existing outside conventional understanding. Inside, the labyrinth unfolded endlessly, corridors branching in nonsensical directions. Walls pulsed faintly, exuding a soft luminescence that cast eerie shadows. Air tasted metallic, sharp and biting against tongues. Echoes of footsteps reverberated strangely, overlapping and diverging until orientation became impossible. Maps proved useless here. Compasses spun wildly, GPS signals failed entirely. Time lost meaning, hours stretching into days or compressing into seconds depending on perception alone. Yet amidst the disorientation, patterns emerged. Certain paths led repeatedly to dead ends, forcing retracing of steps. Others opened onto chambers filled with artifacts, strange devices humming softly, crystalline structures refracting light into dazzling displays, statues carved with unsettling precision. Each discovery raised more questions than answers, fueling both fascination and terror. Were these remnants of previous visitors, evidence of others who had fallen prey to the planet's trap? Or were they creations of the monolith itself, designed to ensnare and confuse? Exploration revealed glimpses of the planet's true nature, or at least hints of it. In one chamber, walls displayed moving images, projections flickering to life as the crew passed. Scenes depicted civilizations rising and falling. Worlds consumed by cataclysmic events, stars collapsing into black holes. Figures resembling humans appeared frequently, their faces contorted in expressions of anguish or ecstasy. Whether records of past tragedies or visions of potential futures remained unclear, but the message was undeniable. Destruction followed those who dared trespass here. Another room contained pools of liquid metal, rippling gently despite no apparent disturbance. Reflections showed not the crew's faces but twisted versions of themselves. Eyes hollow, smiles too wide, bodies elongated grotesquely. Staring too long induced vertigo, a sensation of falling endlessly into infinite voids. Breaking contact brought relief, albeit temporary, as lingering impressions haunted peripheral vision long after leaving the chamber. The deeper they ventured, the more pervasive the sense of being watched. Eyes seemed embedded in the walls, following movements silently. Whispers echoed faintly, indistinct yet insistent, urging them onward or warning them away. Rationality fought valiantly against paranoia, but cracks widened with each passing moment. Reality blurred, dreams bled into wakefulness, and trust dissolved entirely. At some point, decisions ceased being collective. Individuals wandered off alone, driven by impulses they couldn't explain. Arguments erupted violently, fists flying in fits of rage fueled by exhaustion and fear. Bonds forged through months of travel shattered irreparably, leaving behind isolated individuals united only by shared captivity. Escape seemed less likely with each passing hour, hope dwindling alongside sanity. Attempts to retrace their path failed spectacularly. Corridors rearranged themselves constantly, twisting into new configurations whenever approached. Dead ends transformed into open passages, previously clear routes sealed shut without warning. Navigation tools offered conflicting data, rendering them useless. Memory faltered under the strain, recollections fragmenting into disjointed snapshots impossible to piece together coherently. Desperation drove increasingly reckless actions. One crew member smashed a crystalline artifact in frustration, unleashing a cascade of piercing shrieks that reverberated painfully through skulls. Another tried hacking at the walls with a knife, only to find the blade melting instantly upon contact. Tempers flared hotter, violence escalating unchecked. Self-preservation took precedence over cooperation, survival instincts overriding morality. Yet amidst the chaos, moments of clarity pierced through. Fragments of understanding surfaced briefly, tantalizing glimpses of truth obscured by layers of madness. The planet wasn't simply a trap, it was a test. A gauntlet designed to weed out weakness, to separate those capable of enduring its trials from those destined to perish. Success promised knowledge beyond imagining, failure guaranteed oblivion. But how to succeed remained elusive, hidden behind veils of illusion and deception. The realization sparked renewed determination, however fleeting. If escape proved impossible, mastery offered salvation. Conquering the monolith required embracing its mysteries rather than resisting them. Acceptance, even reluctant, became the first step toward unraveling its secrets. The labyrinth within the monolith began to reveal its true purpose, or at least part of it. The crew realized they were no longer merely exploring. They were being observed, judged, and tested. Each decision carried weight. Each action rippled outward in ways they couldn't fully comprehend. The artifacts they encountered weren't random. They responded to their presence, shifting or reacting based on subtle cues, a hesitant touch, an angry shout, even a moment of doubt. It became clear that the structure was not inert but adaptive, learning from them as much as they were attempting to learn from it. In one chamber, they discovered what appeared to be a control panel, a series of glowing glyphs arranged in patterns that shifted when approached. One crew member attempted to interact with it, pressing symbols based on intuition rather than logic. The room reacted violently, walls contracting inward like lungs exhaling. Panic erupted as the group scrambled to retreat, but the corridor behind them had already sealed shut. For several tense minutes, they stood frozen, waiting for the inevitable collapse. Instead, the walls slowly receded, revealing a new path forward, along with a faint hum of approval emanating from the structure itself. This incident marked a turning point. The crew began to suspect that the monolith wasn't simply punishing failure, but rewarding ingenuity, creativity, and perhaps even courage. Yet these rewards came at a cost. Every success seemed to drain them further, sapping energy and clarity until exhaustion bordered on delirium. Tempers flared hotter, paranoia deepened, and alliances fractured irreparably. Trust, once the foundation of their mission, now felt like a relic of a distant past. Despite this, fragments of cooperation emerged. Small acts of kindness, a shared ration, a steadying hand during moments of vertigo, offered fleeting reminders of humanity amidst the chaos. These gestures, though rare, hinted at resilience buried beneath layers of fear and despair. Perhaps survival wasn't solely about individual strength but collective endurance, even if fractured and imperfect. As they pressed deeper into the labyrinth, the environment grew increasingly hostile. Gravity fluctuated wildly, sometimes pinning them to the ground with crushing force, other times lifting them off their feet entirely. Air thickened, making every breath laborious, while temperatures swung between blistering heat and freezing cold without warning. Physical symptoms worsened, vision blurred, hearing distorted, skin burned with phantom sensations. Fatigue settled like lead weights on limbs already pushed beyond their limits. Yet the psychological toll proved far greater. Hallucinations became commonplace, indistinguishable from reality. One crew member swore he saw his deceased geologist colleague walking ahead of them, beckoning silently before vanishing into thin air. Another claimed to hear voices whispering her name, soft and insistent, urging her to follow. Even those who remained skeptical found themselves questioning their own perceptions, unable to separate fact from fiction. These visions served a dual purpose: distraction and revelation. While they disoriented and terrified, they also offered glimpses of truth, fragments of understanding buried beneath layers of madness. Patterns emerged in the chaos, symbols repeated across different chambers, sounds mimicking familiar words, images flickering briefly before dissolving into static. Piecing these together required focus and collaboration, qualities in short supply among the fractured group. Still, progress was made, however incremental, driven by sheer willpower and desperation. The culmination of their journey came unexpectedly, announced not by fanfare but by silence. After hours, or perhaps days, of relentless noise and motion, the labyrinth fell still. Walls ceased pulsing, corridors stopped rearranging, and the oppressive hum faded into nothingness. For the first time since entering the monolith, the crew could hear their own breathing, steady and shallow, echoing softly in the emptiness. Before them loomed a final chamber, vast and cavernous, illuminated by a single beam of light descending from the ceiling. At its center stood the shadowy figure from their dreams, now solid and tangible. Its form wavered slightly, as though composed of smoke given shape, yet its presence commanded attention. Eyes locked onto theirs, conveying neither malice nor benevolence but something far older and more complex. Around the figure floated holographic projections, scenes of countless expeditions ending in failure, civilizations crumbling under the weight of hubris, stars extinguished by forces beyond comprehension. The message was clear. Humanity was not unique in its mistakes, nor would it be spared their consequences. The planet was a crucible, designed to test those who dared venture into the unknown. Those who failed were absorbed, their essence feeding the monolith's endless cycle. Those who succeeded might earn a chance at transcendence. But success demanded sacrifice. The figure extended a hand, not an invitation but demand. To take it meant leaving behind everything they knew, surrendering individuality for something greater. Refusal meant certain death, consumed by the labyrinth like so many before them. No words were spoken, yet the choice hung heavy in the air, suffocating in its finality. The decision split the group irrevocably. Some stepped forward without hesitation, drawn by promises of knowledge and power beyond mortal comprehension. Others recoiled, clinging desperately to remnants of identity and sanity. Arguments erupted violently, accusations flying like shrapnel. Fists collided, tears streamed, voices cracked under the strain of impossible choices. In the end, unity dissolved entirely, leaving only isolated individuals facing their fates alone. Those who accepted the figure's offer vanished instantly, their forms dissolving into streams of light absorbed by the monolith. Their expressions betrayed no emotion, no fear, no regret, only acceptance tinged with awe. Those who refused collapsed to the ground, bodies convulsing as the labyrinth closed in around them. Walls contracted rapidly, crushing resistance with ruthless efficiency. Screams echoed briefly before fading into silence, swallowed whole by the structure's infinite hunger. Only one remained, their leader, burdened by responsibility and guilt. She hesitated, torn between duty and self-preservation. Memories flooded her mind, faces of fallen comrades, hopes of discovery, dreams of returning home. Her hand trembled as she reached out, brushing fingertips against the figure's ethereal palm. Contact sent a jolt through her body, electric and searing, flooding her consciousness with visions of galaxies birthing and dying, timelines branching infinitely, truths too vast to comprehend. When she opened her eyes, the chamber was empty. The monolith stood silent, its surface smooth and unbroken. Outside, the planet shimmered peacefully under twin suns, oblivious to the tragedy unfolding within. Somewhere deep inside, the monolith pulsed faintly, digesting its latest captives, preparing for the next wave of explorers lured by promises of paradise. Back aboard the ship, automated systems initiated departure protocols. Engines roared to life, vibrations shaking loose dust accumulated during weeks on the surface. Sensors detected no signs of survivors, no signals indicating human life. Mission logs recorded terse entries detailing exploration efforts, technical failures, and eventual loss of contact with ground teams. Data uploads transmitted fragmented information back to headquarters, raising more questions than answers. Command reviewed the findings cautiously, debating whether to classify the planet as hazardous or simply mysterious. Ultimately, pragmatism prevailed. Reports emphasized resource abundance, downplaying anomalies as environmental quirks warranting further study. Plans were drafted for future expeditions, crews selected and briefed on potential challenges. Lessons learned, they assured themselves, would prevent similar tragedies. Yet somewhere, buried deep within encrypted files, lingered warnings ignored or dismissed. Whispers of a planet not just alive but aware, eager to consume those foolish enough to trespass. Tales of a monolith testing resolve, rewarding ingenuity, demanding sacrifice. Stories of a crew lost to ambition and curiosity, swallowed whole by forces beyond understanding. And so, humanity pressed onward, chasing stars and secrets, blind to the traps awaiting them. For every discovery brought new dangers, every answer birthed fresh riddles. The universe remained vast and indifferent, teeming with wonders and horrors alike. And somewhere, a shadowy figure waited patiently, extending a hand to those brave or reckless enough to grasp it. If you enjoyed this chilling tale of survival and cosmic horror, don't forget to subscribe for more gripping stories that will leave you questioning the boundaries of reality.